Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Scott Schilling Speaks. Going to be a fun one today because we have a great friend who is absolutely phenomenal at all she touches. And whether it be from the infomercial side, starting with as seen on TV and that kind of revolution, to QVC and HSE, HSN, and the fitness expert and the creator of the SpinGym and so many different things. Forbes Riley, thanks for joining us here on Scott Schilling Speaks.
Well, hello, my friend.
How are you?
I am wonderful. I have to say, there's a lot of great things going on in my world. We're celebrating. We're having an amazing time, and I've got new books coming out, new trainings. I just crossed over 10,000 students since last year, and life is a bowl of cherries.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Well, where do you want to go with all that? What's the most exciting project you've got on tap right now?
Well, it's interesting. I'm talking to a gentleman who's writing my life story, and he is obsessed with understanding who I am as a person. And I'm like, no, I am what I've done and what I'm doing. And last night we had a mastermind. I teach a beautiful training about how to pitch. And pitching is very, very important to me. It's how I started my career. I'm an actress and a television host. You've seen me in over 194 infomercials, and I've grossed a little over $2.5 billion in my career. It's been fun, but I didn't start out doing that, and I didn't start out doing any of this. I wanted to be an actress, and the reason I wanted to be an actress, Scott, was because I grew up as an ugly, awkward little girl who had a weirdly broken nose when I was from 8 to like 16. I had a palate issue, so I was in full set of braces for 8 years of my life, and for 2 of those years, I had a tongue thrusher and I talked like this. So nobody wanted to be my friend. And that led me to an interesting childhood. I had 2 wonderful, loving parents and a television. And I was a straight A student, but I could tell I know trivia of every 1960s, 70s, and 80s programs because those were my friends. And the funny thing about that was at a very early age, I discovered manifestation and the art of that. And I remember when my dad was in a horrific accident. He was an engineer and a printing press builder. He slipped and he cut off the whole front of his hand one afternoon. Ooh. And he spent 3 years in the hospital. He had 15 operations in my childhood, most of my teenage years. I didn't even know I didn't know what football or baseball was. We didn't have a team. I went to the hospital every single day to see my dad. And then one day my mom says to me, about 15 years old, she said, we have no money for college. You're top of your school, but your grades, but you have no scholarship and we don't know what to do. And then she said, rather jokingly, there's this beauty competition called the Miss Teenage America pageant. Some lucky girl's going to be on NBC with Bob Hope. And I looked at her and she looked at me and she's like, shit. I'm like, thank you, Mom. Now I really know I'm not attractive. I appreciate that. And I've shown pictures, and by all standards, I wasn't. I was overweight. I had frizzy hair, the nose, the teeth. One day the braces came off, and we were having this conversation in front of my dad's doctor. And he turned to us and he said, you know what? I'm going to fix your daughter's nose. Now, in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't sound like a lot, right? Well, it was, because somehow I went from being rather conservatively ugly to within a week, you could see my eyes. My nose was kind of cute. You could see my teeth. Everything just changed. And I entered this competition, and I remember a moment, Scott, when I walked into the room with 500 girls for the preliminaries, and I was holding my dad's good hand, and I looked up to him, and I don't know if I said it out loud or not, but I said it. One of these girls is going to be on TV with Bob Hope, and it's going to be me. Now, that's only a good story because after 3 weeks of competitions in a hand-me-down bridesmaid's dress in the middle of the mall, I won Miss Teenage New York, and I went on to be on NBC with Bob Hope, which turned out to be the worst week of my life. Because as a New Yorker in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1977, who talked like this, right? Now I got the New York accent going, right? And my religion was not, I was Jewish, and there was nobody Jewish back then. That was very, very bad. Ooh, that was evil. Ooh. How come all the Jews in my town are rich? Where's your horns? I mean, it was weird. I'm like, I never experienced the level of prejudice and hatred of people who didn't know who I was. I was such an outcast. It was so bizarre that it led me to understand how to be colorblind. I raised a little boy from South Central for 12 years of his life. I've done a lot of activist work because I know what it was like to hurt so bad for doing nothing wrong other than just being who you are. And so I'm glad I went through that. And I live by this phrase, you are the sum of the obstacles you overcome. I'm
Love that.
I'm sure you have a lot of that as well. And I advise all of us, when you're going through hell, just keep on going, because that is what life is. It is a journey of these moments. And I think maybe Les Brown said the two greatest moments in your life, the moment you're born and the moment you figure out why you're born.
Yeah.
And so I've been on this beautiful journey of which I've chronicled. I teach. I am a motivational speaker right now on stages with John Asseroff and Deepak Chopra and Les Brown and people I dreamed of. But you know, the funny part of the story, Scott, that I don't talk about a lot is when I did get to Hollywood and work as an actress, I worked with a lot of my favorite television stars. I became really close friends with Florence Henderson, the mom on Brady Bunch, and Ted Land, who was on Love Boat. He was one of my directors. And Battlestar Galactica, Richard Hatch and I were best buddies. He sadly left the planet. And I have a lot of, B actors, television actors. And it was fun because they were like, these are people I grew up with, and now that you're my world. So if you dream it, can you create it? And that has been the entire mantra of my life, what I teach and preach, and I've helped people get their goals and experience life in a way bigger than they ever imagined.
Absolutely fabulous. And thanks for sharing all that, because really Scott Schilling Speaks, this whole show is designed to bring people's voice to life. Now, obviously you've been in front of so many people for so long and done so many great things. It's not like, somebody doesn't know your voice, but they don't maybe know this portion of your voice. And I think, and that's why I wanted to have you on, quite frankly. I mean, they know you for, again, I just did a training and I said, stop describing yourself by the title on your card. It's not what you've done. It's not that, right? It's who you are. And I know that that's a story when I first heard it, your kind of your childhood and coming through all that, wow, I didn't realize all that. But look what you've been able to accomplish. And because of taking those twists, those turns, those ins, those outs, all the different stuff, and turning it for your good. I mean, there's a pretty good book that says all things work together for my good. It doesn't say everything is good, doesn't say everything is easy, but it says it works for my good. So you've been able to take and manifest just tremendous success. And now I think what's really impressive to me, knowing all that you've accomplished, or knowing a lot of what you've accomplished, is that you're reaching out to even more greatness through your new products and through some of the things you're doing in your programs.
Why wouldn't you? As this writer asked me a bunch of questions last night, one of them was like, what's one of your biggest fears? Or what is it you're looking forward to? And at this age, at this stage, and I hope that you all get here. I had this conversation with my 19-year-old son today. He's 42 years younger than me. I have no idea when I was 19 that I could have imagined what life would be like in my 60s. And I'll tell you what, at 19, 40 years from now, you cannot even imagine the world because things are changing so fast. I mean, this was a Dick Tracy watch when I was a kid. Now you can actually, my parents.
Exactly. Yes.
So things are changing. So you and I are talking on a Zoom. I remember a year ago, nobody would jump on a Zoom call with me, and then bam, COVID hit. Now I've got students around the world on this Zoom thing. So I've never done a 3, 5, or 10-year plan. I don't know what that is. I just know that I wanted to matter. And all I want to do now is not be the Alanis Morissette song, because it's like, you win the lottery and you get hit by a car the next day. Well, that would just suck. And so I've gotten to this stage where I've paid a lot of dues. I know I've made a difference now in a lot of people's lives because I set that in motion many years ago. I've always taught, but now I teach hundreds of thousands of students. I speak on stages of 10, 20,000 people at a time. I understand the magnitude is vast now. And I think I deserve it to do that. I think that the voice of this little girl who struggled, and by the way, you only heard the tip of the iceberg. Because what I created, and I'm excited, maybe I put this into a one-woman show. I have to put it together, Scott, so that somebody's ears could comprehend how quickly I could have given Kim Kardashian her start in television with an infomercial, started ESPN's X Games, done 194 infomercials, worked with everybody from Betty White to Bill Clinton. You're like, wait, you did what? Wait, that's not even the beginning of it. I own a television studio. I've done movies. I've got a movie on Amazon Prime right now. And you're like, what? I put 300 authors in a book last year and made them all bestsellers. You have to either have a lot of hours in the day or just live this crazy life. And then I'm a magician on the side of that. And that's one of the things I love to do is magic tricks. Then I go roller skating with my kids on the weekends. I even know how to fly a private airplane.
Nice.
What? So I love telling these magnificently crazy stories because I also can't believe that was your life. Well, that's fascinating. And I love when people say, what do you want to do next? I'm like, you know what I want to do? I did this, Scott. I hope that you come down to St. Pete one day while I still have my studio. but I have a wall that's about 60 feet long. And when the movie Joy came out, did you ever see the movie Joy?
Uh-huh.
Based on Joy Mangano, who's not only a dear friend of mine, but I met her dad 22 years ago. And I know that because he came very close to my family and he was at my mother's funeral. He was played in the movie by Robert De Niro, just so you know. And when I watched her life story, I thought, I have one of those. And it's actually a little parallel to yours. And if that's worth going to the Oscars with, wait, I've got a real good story to tell. And so I put my achievements on a wall. Now, it took about 6 months to do that. I've done many videos through the wall. It's fascinating. It's the museum shrine to Forbes Riley in the Forbes Riley studios. Let's just pretend I actually
By Forbes Riley.
By Forbes Riley. I don't know. None of you know what? There's 2 other women who've had studios. Oprah had a studio. Lucille Ball had a studio. I have a studio, and I have this shrine to which my business partner is like, I know, but I walk down it and I tell people this story. And they're fascinating stories. I mean, my first movie was Splatter University. There's celebrities like I dated Neil Simon. I was on Broadway with Christopher Reeve. You just go, it's like walking through a museum of this crazy fun life. And some days I just want to stand there and say, you know what, kiddo? Good job.
Yeah. Well, that's the reality, though. I mean, again, you and I have done infomercials together. We've done it. I have certainly not done as many as you have, but to be in that environment and then to be on major stages and 20, 25,000 people on the stage and doing all that. And one day you sit back and you go, how'd that happen? And you realize it happened because there was some want to, you just wanted to use the talents and capabilities you were granted to do the very best you could possibly do to make a positive impact where you could make that positive impact.
Yeah.
And so I think on one side it's cool because I think a lot of times people don't understand the accolades, right? They don't understand when you build a wall like that or you build that accomplishment. It's not, I mean, I don't see you like taking out ads showing everybody that, right? I mean, it's not for that, but some of it is to just sit there and say, wow, if this young girl in this situation could grow to this, just think how many people could be inspired to do the same. And I feel very similarly. I mean, it's how do we share enough hope and inspiration to create a community of people that truly respect, honor, and dignify each other and lift each other up to achieve their greatness, whatever that might be.
Whatever it is. And I guess I do the wall partly also because my parents never achieved any of the greatness that they thought about. None of it. They live in a very small little house on Long Island, and they were on this planet for 70 years, and they both left diabetic and smoked and wonderful people, and they're my parents. I love them very much, but they made no bigger impact than just that house. And I realized a long, long, long time ago that that's what I wanted to do. I remember fantasizing about Hans Christian Andersen when I was a little girl, being the storyteller. Sadly, Bill Cosby's got a bad rap, but he was a man who sat on stage like Garrison Keillor and told stories. Mm-hmm. And I had a vision when I was younger that I would be doing that when I was 83 years old. I remember I turned to my mom one day. I just finished starring in my first feature film, which again, and everything in my life has fantastical stories to them. How I got the lead on a Broadway show with Christopher Reeve. They're all these odd stories, how I even managed myself at one point. And I love telling them because I couldn't find an agent at some point who wouldn't chase me around a desk long before the Me Too movement when I was in my early 20s. There's nothing like getting a phone call going, will you meet me for lunch in this hotel? And I'm thinking it's the restaurant. He's thinking it's room 2432. I'm like, no, I'm not going to your hotel room to have a meeting. And at some point, I got a piece of stationery in the days when we had pens and stationery, and I would CMA on it, Creative Management for Artists. And I said, let's use your talent. So I hired a woman named Lindsay Maxwell, and Lindsay would get on the phone and say, oh my God, you've got to meet Forbes Riley. She's one of the most talented women. No, she's done this, 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 and this. My agents at the time didn't know half the shit that I did, but Lindsay knew everything because Lindsay was me. And I got commercials and movies and television. At some point, it's like it was ridiculous because back then you had to have payphones. So I'm always with the quarters and the payphones and the this and the beepers. I mean, it's a funny story, right?
It's fabulous.
But that's what I did. I want someone to know that that's what I did. I want someone to know that when people told me no, I was the most creative yes getter you've ever seen. I have done things that I've yet some of them to tell people. I think there's a statute of limitations. I never heard anybody, But I once produced a show that didn't open because I wanted to get this accolade, and you could only do it if you were in this particular kind of a show. Anyway, it didn't matter. I just didn't want people to stop me. And even having said that, Scott, here's the crazy part of the whole story. And I told my son this morning. I'm very shy. I am willing to push it to a point, but in my head, I'm always like this little cheerleader, and then this going, what are you doing? Like, shut up, we're going to do this anyway. No, we're going to get in trouble. And there's these conversations in my head. You're like, okay, this is odd. And like I said, I've never set out to hurt anybody, but I just wanted to experience life with all the cylinders firing, you know?
Well, I think, again, another really important thing that you said there is become a really good yes getter. One of the concepts that I teach a lot is there's only two answers in life: hell yes and hell no. And let's make it a hell yes. What would make it that? What would make it something worth doing that's going to provide value to somebody?
Well, the no part, see, I wrote a whole book called Redefinitions. I redefined all these words because nothing made sense to me, including the word all. When I was in my 20s, when all of my friends who graduated college, I did as well, but it was having 2.5 kids, marrying a doctor, having a nice life, and shopping at Nordstrom's, and you have it all. Well, I didn't have any of those things, but I said, well, screw it. This doesn't work for me. Let's change ALL to be ALL, a loving life. Bingo. Yeah. Now I have it all, and I can say that. I changed the word diet because I was overweight most of my life. Diet meant deprivation, starvation, frustration. Oh my gosh. I said, screw it. DIET, decisions I eat today. Oh,
nice.
That set up I have a whole program based on that whole concept. Mom was another one. I want to be mom my whole life. I love the idea of being mom, right? All of a sudden I've got two little toddlers. Mom, my butt. Mom, can I have this? Mom, I want to get mom. I'm like, wait a second. You got to stop because mom's not doing the right thing right now. And then I change it around. Scott, how many memories do you have of your mother? 50, 100, 2,000?
Yeah, a lot.
Well, you'd be surprised. You have to look at some photos to remember moments, like real moments.
True. That's true.
Right. And so I was like, how many memories? I don't remember the one school play my mom missed. I don't remember most of anything. So I said MOM is moments of memories. And I can sit with my kids, and I absolutely carved this out. The three of us stood on the Great Wall of China, and we all remember that moment. We all remember a moment. My daughter and I had a baked potato when we were in London when I was doing a gig there, and we can laugh about that. We can laugh about the hamburger that we had at the very first Airbnb we ever stayed at in Paris. How do we have moments? And I said, if you could just do those, then stop being so guilty when you're at a seminar or a training and you're not there for every single moment of your kid's life. They don't remember, and neither will you. And it became a very different strategy of how I could travel and still maintain a beautiful relationship with my kids.
Again, I think a fabulous tip there. The reality is create memories and moments, and that's what'll be remembered with. I mean, there'll be a void in the brain looking for something unless you fill it. So create the memories and moments to fill that void. A great tip right there.
It takes away a lot of the guilt, which I got really tired of. My daughter called me one day in a world where there were still payphones. I was at a seminar, and all the moms were there, and you could see it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. And she's like, Mommy, do you still love me? And now the typical response was, oh, baby, you know I do. I'll be home soon. I'll bring you a little candy. You know what I said to her? I said, McKenna, did the sun come up today? And she's like, of course it did, Mommy. I said, great. You look outside your window when you wake up every morning, and if I'm not there, if the sun is up, you know how much I love you. Nice. And the next day, it was like, Mom, the sun is up. I'm like, I know, baby. I love you too. I'll see you soon. And it was like a different language. So to redefine, I don't think the paradigms that we have set up for ourselves are designed to help us. I think they're designed to hurt us. Because if we're hurting, we'll buy medication. If we're thirsty, we'll buy this stuff. If we want this, we'll buy. They're set up in a commerce world to make us feel bad. Do you know how weird it was the one moment when I discovered what Photoshop was? For decades. I looked at magazine covers and thought, I'm never going to be pretty enough, thin enough, tall enough. Until I realized neither were they. And it was like, oh my God. I have been chasing and making myself unhappy because I had a little cellulite on my thighs. So did Madonna. So does Gwyneth Paltrow. They all do, but I never saw that. They didn't want me to see that. And so I was unhappy over things that weren't even real. And then I started doing the Wizard of Oz and pulling the curtain back on a lot of things, going, you know what? Nobody's as happy. The woman who just killed herself, Chesley.
Oh my goodness.
30, by all standards, Miss Universe, law student, on television, gorgeous.
Yep.
From an outside perspective, as far as I'm concerned, girlfriend, you have it all. but apparently on the inside, something wasn't working.
Yeah, the inner game wasn't where it needed to be. And that's why, again, the show is really designed to share truth, whatever that is. And I don't think that there's enough of that, quite frankly, where it's all, you know, fantasy in so many different situations, right? At the same time, if you want to have your own show, you can have your own show. If you want to accomplish some of the things that you've accomplished, you can accomplish those things. You made a decision, from the Latin decidere, to cut off. You made a decision to cut off any other choice other than to get that success that you were looking for. And I'm impressed by that. I think everybody is, quite frankly.
Because I talk about, what do you want? I did this last night in a huge mastermind of hundreds of people. You know what I wanted when I was little? I wanted to be James Bond. I thought that I was bewitched. I thought if I could do this, I could have anything I want. But think about how weird this is. And then I wanted to be James Bond. So what did I want? I wanted to ski. I wanted to go underwater with a little Zoom thing. I wanted to be a spy. I wanted some espionage. I wanted to go to Monaco. I wanted to drive fancy cars. Well, guess what, Scott? Including the espionage thing and undercover work, I've done all of those things. And in a world, at a time when I couldn't financially afford them, I discovered Club Med. I went and got hired at Club Med. I could scuba dive 3 times a day. They paid me a whopping $15 a day back then. I was in my 20s and I'm living around the islands, being James Bond. You know what it's like to jump off a boat at 7 o'clock at night into dark water and you go, this is a fantasy. Or to ski down mountains. I got a job doing stand-up comedy at ski resorts. I'm not even that funny. And so I really wanted to live that life. Now that's crazy, but I'll tell you what, if you want your dreams that big, even if you don't hit them all, you come really close to a lot of them.
Absolutely. I got a buddy who says, aim for the stars and miss better than aiming for a stump and hitting,
Right.
So, why not go for it? What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't happen. Well, it wasn't happening to begin with. nothing bad with that.
Well, but the worst that could happen, Scott, a lot of people seem to be brought up with this sense of, you can't embarrass me. I have a thing, and it's because of, and I'm not kidding, to the point where I did singing and stripping telegrams in public for 10 years. You cannot embarrass me. I don't care. I was standing in Mexico one day with my parents, and this is a horribly weird story, but I had no underwear left to travel home with, so I wasn't wearing any, on a cute little dress. Well, apparently all the buttons on the back of my dress had spontaneously opened, and I'm just yakking away, and everybody in the airport can see my little tush. I didn't know it at the time. And my parents come running, and putting a coat around me. I'm like, what's going on? Like, everybody can see your ass. I'm like, thank you. And she's like, what? Come on, seriously? And I've passed that on to my kids, because if you're not thinking about what other people think about you, you just do things. Because people will tell you people, they tell you all kinds of things. I just don't care as much anymore. And I'll tell you what, other thing, age heals all embarrassment. And the problem is, I remember my grandmother at 96, not a very nice woman. I didn't meet her till she was 92. Okay.
Wow.
She had her own issues. But she had no editorial skills at 92. Right?
No filter.
No, you're fat. You look at you. And that's what she would say is, why are you eating? I got crumb. She was horrible, mean. When you're 20, you care about everybody. And somewhere in the middle, you start to lose the filter. What would your life be like if you didn't care what other people thought? What would your life be like if you knew you couldn't fail? If it just didn't exist, there was no such thing as failure, and you just did things anyway because you wanted to. You'd be surprised what would happen. And I probably should take people on what I call the outrageous journey. I used to do this. We used to have a thing on how to train people to be outrageous. Are you out, Scott? What's the most outrageous thing you've done?
Dove with sharks, did some stuff, scuba diving. They're pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. If you dive with sharks, you got a sense of thing. So outrageousness is when I was speaking at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, right? 10,000 people in the auditorium with Grant Cardone. And the night before, I go down with my whole crew to see the arena. We get down this long hallway. You've ever been to Vegas? Everything is just too big. And a guard comes rushing out and he says, I'm sorry, ma'am, can I help you? I said, yeah, I want to go in and see where I'm going to be speaking. I'm a headliner. He said, oh, no, you're not allowed in there. I said, like, you're kidding me, right? See Grant's name up there? That's my picture. He said, no, I can't let you in there. Okay, I love no. So I said, thank you very much. My crew all just wandered back, said, we'll see you later at dinner. That's not good enough for me. I said, I want to see the arena. I'm sorry, you missed the memo here. So my daughter's with me, and I saw a door to the right, and I said, thank you. He closed his door. I went down that door, walked down the stairs. I know what I want, and you don't understand. I understood what you said, but it's irrelevant in my vocabulary. There's a bunch of waiters down there playing hacky sack. I said, is the stadium that way? They're like, yeah, you just go right through those doors. And I did. And 30 seconds later, I'm standing on the floor of the stadium. Now a woman's racing across the floor. Now I know she's probably wondering, you need to leave. So I circumvented that because I know what she's going to do. And if you study with me and you learn what pitching is, you learn how to get what you want whenever you want it. And so she comes up here. I go, oh my God, I'm so glad that you're here, which took her like, what? I said, yeah, I'm looking for the man who runs this arena. I'm the big keynote speaker. And I was looking for the man who manages the floor so I can put my props and stuff. He's like, oh, come on, let me get you to his office. And then about 8 minutes after the guy said, there's no way you could go in there, I'm sitting with the floor manager in his office.
Yeah.
Who else? All my other people turned around and left. And that's the majority of people, because somehow by the time you're in first grade, you've asked permission 100,000 times. And almost always you were denied. Mom, can I leave the table? No, not until you. Mom, I have to go to the bathroom? No. And then you hear a lot of no's. I think we grow up expecting no.
Yep.
I missed that memo completely.
I love that. I missed the memo. Well, I might have gotten it torn it up too. You never know. Might have been one of the two. You never know. Hard to believe we run through a bunch of time really quick here. How do people get a hold of you? What do you want to, or leave them one last little bit of wisdom, and then how do they get a hold of you?
All right. If you want to get a hold of me, number one, it's my name, ForbesRiley.com. You'll find all my links there. But I would invite you, if you're curious about any of the things that I said or brought up or want to meet me live. Since COVID happened in 2020, I started every Sunday doing a 2-hour master class. I call it WWW Pitch Secrets with an S, Pitch Secrets Masterclass. And I teach and coach up to 100 people in the room. And I get to know people, work with people. I'll ask you all kind of questions. And next time I'm with Scott, I should do this exercise, Scott. I should ask you, what do you do? And hear your answer. Because that alone triggers people. I can get a yes in 30 seconds. I mean, for example, my fitness product. I have a crazy, amazing fitness product. I don't ever sell it. Here's what I do. Mr. Scott Schilling, nice to see you. You look cute in your green. Hey, do you want to see something cool?
Sure.
I knew I was going to get a yes before I asked the question. Give me your thumbs. Now, why did he do that, you guys? Why? Scott and I are not even in the same country, same city. He gave me his thumbs because I told him to. That's called an embedded command. And if he and I were standing next to each other, I'd put this on his hands and I'd have him do this for about 10 seconds. And I'd have him do this for about 10 seconds and I would take it away. And usually in less than 90 seconds, somebody will say to me, almost everybody says, how do I get one of those? Because you realize it vibrates. I could make my arms tight. I don't say who it is or what it does, but you want it. And the secret of what I teach on Sunday, and it's a big secret, is if you want to sell your product, your service, your idea, stop telling people they need it. You need my show, you need my podcast, you need my no-need juice, you need my watch. No, you never bought anything that you needed. You only buy what you want. So the biggest skill that I teach people is how to get the person you're talking to want what you have. And so right now you're listening to this, you love Scott, which is why you're tuned in. You maybe have just discovered me or finally seeing me live and saying, oh my gosh, I could meet her in person on a Sunday. It's that easy. WWW Pitch Secrets Masterclass. And I'll show you how anything in your head that you're thinking, your newest idea, your newest product, when you get people to want it, you make a lot of money.
Nice. I encourage everybody to go. It's an amazing class. Been there, done that, going to go again. I love learning all the time. So Forbes, thanks for joining us here today. We're going to have to do more of this. We're going to have to do it again and tell more stories, do more stuff.
And then actually I need to bring you on my podcast, which is on Wednesdays, called Forbes Factor, so I can learn more about you. I don't think I let you say 2 words, but isn't that the male-female relationship?
It's all good. It's all the way it works. So thank you all for being here today. Join us again at Scott Schilling Speaks for the next event. God bless.